Okay, so today we're doing something a little different. We're running a full system audit on a pretty controversial theory about the Quran. It's known as Code 19, this idea that there's a hidden, complex mathematical structure running underneath the entire text. We're going to put that claim to the test, engineer to engineer.
So here's the big question we're tackling. Is Code 19 really a divine validation algorithm, or is it just a critical bug in how we're trying to interpret the text? We're going to approach this like a root cause analysis and really hunt for any flaws in the system. To get our heads around this, let's use a simple analogy that'll guide us through this whole thing. Think of the Quran as the original protected source code. And this Code 19 theory, well, that's like a validation algorithm, a checksum basically, that claims to prove the source code is authentic. Our job is to see if this algorithm actually works or if it breaks the system. Now, before you ever analyze a piece of code, what's the first thing a good engineer does? You scan the environment it's running in. For us, that means we need to look at the verses in the Quran's 74th chapter, Al-Muddathir, that come right before the number 19 even shows up.
And what we find is really interesting. The verses aren't describing a warrior or a politician. They're profiling an intellectual, a thinker. The text says he thought and deliberated and determined. This is a character who is trying to measure and calculate the divine, almost as if he's looking for a way to logic his way out of it. And right there, we hit our first major flag. There's a huge irony here. The very mindset that this Code 19 theory requires, this intense focus on human calculation, is the exact behavior the source code is already warning us about in the preceding lines. It's a built-in alert. All right, so we've scanned the environment. Now let's actually analyze the variable at the heart of this whole thing, the number 19 itself. And lucky for us, the source code comes with its own documentation. Think of it as a README file, right there in verse 31 of the very same chapter. Verse 30 just plainly states, over it are 19. Now context is everything here, right? What is it? Well, the verses just before are talking about Sakar, which is hellfire. So the number 19 isn't being presented as some kind of cryptographic key for the book. The text explicitly says it's the number of keepers or angels over hell. And then you get to verse 31, which is, for all intents and purposes, the official spec sheet for the number 19. It lays out 5 and only 5 functions. It's a trial for those who disbelieve. It's a source of confirmation for people of the book. It's meant to increase the certainty of believers. It's there to remove doubt. And finally, it's a trap for those with sickness in their hearts to make them question why it's even there. Let's just double-click on that first function, Fitnah, or trial. In system terms, this isn't just a simple pop quiz. You can think of it as an intentional stumbling block. It's a system filter designed from the ground up to sort users based on how they react to this specific piece of data. This brings us to a really crucial conclusion. The number 19 isn't a key that unlocks some secret code. According to its own documentation, it's a firewall. Its job is to filter people, separating those who trust the clear text from those who get stuck trying to brute force a hidden meaning and end up falling right into the trap the spec sheet warned about. So, we've read the documentation. We think we understand the intended function of this variable. Now comes the moment of truth in our audit. What actually happens when we try to run the Code 19 algorithm against the original source code? And this is where we get to the most critical phase of any audit, checking for data integrity. Because what we find isn't just a bug, it's a fatal error. System alert, data corruption detected. This is the whole ballgame right here. We've discovered that the Code 19 algorithm doesn't just fail to validate the source code, it actually tries to corrupt it. And here is exactly how. For the math to work, for everything to neatly line up into multiples of 19, the people who created this algorithm had to do something unthinkable. They had to literally reject the last 2 verses of the 9th chapter of the Quran, verses that talk about the Prophet's mercy and kindness. Their algorithm simply would not compile with these verses included. They had to be deleted. And look, this violates the most fundamental principle of system engineering. A valid checksum never ever corrupts the source data. If your validation script tells you to delete part of the original file, the script is broken, not the file. You don't corrupt your entire database just to fix a buggy piece of code. So if the Code 19 algorithm is a catastrophic failure, what's the true code?
Well, for that, we just have to look at the Quran's actual README file. Its clear, open-source message that's right there for everyone to see. I mean, this slide illustrates the disconnect perfectly. In the very same chapter, when people in hell are asked why they're there, what do they say? They say, "We did not pray," and "We did not feed the poor." Nobody says, "We failed the math test," or "We miscounted the letters." The system's actual priorities are laid out in plain text. In fact, if you just scroll back to the very top of the chapter, what's the opening command? It's not sit and calculate, it's arise and warn. It's a direct, unambiguous, and urgent call to action. Which really brings us to our final conclusion from this audit. The true divine code isn't some hidden cryptographic puzzle you have to solve. It's the clear, open, and accessible commandments. To pray, to care for the poor, to warn others, to be patient, to simply follow the plain text. And so I'll just leave you with this final thought. This whole obsession with a hidden numerical system forces us to ask a really fundamental question. Is the true message hidden in the code, waiting for us to decipher it? Or is the clear, actionable, open-source code itself the message?